This is
Make It Plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, it's Thursday. Time once again for Thursday Coast in the person of the founder and this is, of course, the largest online progressive community there is, named for the founder, a town named all after him. And his statue will and should remain as a result.
No statue, please. No statue.
You don't want a statue, man?
No, I don't want a statue. That's okay.
Too much trouble, huh?
That's okay. I don't even understand this obsession with statues. You know, I remember in Boston. Boston's a city of statues, right? I mean, when I was going to law school in Boston, and then you see this, statue, and it's some random name, and you just picture people commemorating this statue, going like, people will never forget this great man. And we're sort of going like, who the hell is this guy?
Right. They actually do.
Who cares?
Well, so
Who cares?
start as we always do. Your state is blowing up again in terms of Corona. What's going on?
It is, and not my corner of the state. My corner of the state never really opened up, and has been probably the single most responsible little corner of the country. So you're looking at San Francisco, which is the second most dense city in the country, and I think they're at 48 deaths total. So it's a different world. Northern California and Southern California, I don't understand. LA just opened up bars, which is probably the single most irresponsible thing anybody can do anywhere. Bars are literally the worst. Maybe church choirs are the worst because people are yelling and spitting into each other's faces. But I don't know. Bars are probably the worst because it's loud. They're next to each other. They're yelling. You can't mask because you're obviously drinking. So they opened up, and of course everything's going, all to hell. And you almost expect that in places like Florida and Texas and Arizona that have Trump-like governors who have been acting irresponsible from day one. But I expected better from Californians. But Southern California, and it's LA, it's Imperial County, it's all Southern California that is on fire right now. We're actually okay here, but again, we haven't really opened up much.
Yeah. So it shows this thing is not over; it's still out here. And let's face it, the fish rots from the head. Not that California takes its cue from Donald Trump, but they've all been pushing this notion that this is okay and it's nothing to be worried about and everybody should just reopen. Who couldn't use some leadership at the national level to say no? And Dr. Fauci is saying it, but he doesn't have as big of a megaphone.
No, he doesn't. And the nation's right wing has already decided that he's some kind of anti-Trump hater. Texas Lieutenant Governor yesterday came out and outright said that he doesn't need to listen to Dr. Fauci because he knows better. And they have decided this idea of politicizing masks. I will never, for the life of me, understand how that became a cultural war. I mean, I know why. Trump is the reason why, but it literally, these are people who claim to be Christians, right? Aren't they supposed to be Christians? Aren't they supposed to love thy neighbor? The whole point of masks isn't to protect yourself, it's to protect everybody around you. And if they're wearing masks, then you're protected. It's literally about loving thy neighbor. And I don't understand how so-called self-professed Christians are the worst at putting on masks to protect their neighbors.
It is crazy. Well, we hope it gets better. I don't know. So is Southern California talking about closing again? It really should, shouldn't it?
Well, the governor forced it on them. This didn't come from local county officials. And there's this, I mean, again, from Trump down, this idea that we're going to give local jurisdictions control over making their own decisions because the virus affects different areas differently. I mean, that's a theory, right?
Right.
We're seeing right now that it doesn't. The virus doesn't care about boundaries. The virus doesn't care if it's urban or rural or suburban. The virus is spreading when people congregate, and they're congregating everywhere. And so you have states like Alabama, Mississippi, rural areas of Indiana, rural areas up in Idaho that are absolutely on fire. And that could have been avoided by restricting people's mobility. And it sucks and it's horrible. And I need it. Yesterday I did my own haircut and it looks okay from the front, but if I were to turn my head, it would look pretty horrible.
Turn around.
So I won't turn. I'm not turning around.
Because I'm gonna put it on social media. You know, put the clip on. You see, man, turn around. It actually looks good from the front.
Yeah, no, from the side it's a little harsh.
I've seen worse. It's okay.
And I was on the mirror like this.
You all haven't reopened so much where you are. Is that the case or what?
Yeah, there's restaurants are only takeout. They're still only takeout. There's no gyms, definitely no bars, no mani-pedis, no hairstyles, no hair salons. None of that is open. And we have a mandatory mask requirement that is if you're within 30 feet of anybody. So it's not even near people, it's 30 feet.
So why can't, so the governor imposed something on Southern California but didn't impose anything on your part of the state? Is that?
Well, we're far and beyond the most restrictive restrictions of probably anywhere in the country right now.
Okay. But the governor can overrule that. I mean, you all can maintain those.
Yeah, I mean, what the governor did is he gave municipalities the ability to loosen restrictions if they wanted to. There was never a limit on how restrictive you could be. There was sort of a base floor. And LA, from the beginning, all those Southern California counties decided they were going to open up fully when their numbers looked terrible. I mean, they didn't look terrible like today, terrible, right? But relative to what is happening up here in Northern California. I mean, LA yesterday had, I think, 3,000 new cases, and their positive rate is it's in the double digits. While we up here in Alameda County, which is adjacent to San Francisco, it's Oakland and Berkeley, and we had, I think, 100 new cases, and that's high for the area. Yeah. And it's because people from Southern California moving back and forth, right? But 100 cases, I think most of the, some of these hotspots would kill to have 100 cases in a location that's 5 million large. No,
that's much better. Well, thank God it's not as bad up there. I hope it stays that way. Speaking of things being on fire, has Brett Kavanaugh set Susan Collins' campaign on fire? I hope so.
Oh, man, he absolutely did. Susan Collins is probably, this is somebody who coached her for decades on this idea that she was this political independent and she was a maverick and she was willing to work with Democrats and with Republicans. And for whatever reason that sold in Maine, that was popular. And so we went several cycles, she was in the House and in the Senate, where she was untouched. I mean, she didn't even have credible Democratic opposition because she was so popular. Then last year, she votes for Brett Kavanaugh for the U.S. Supreme Court after this big, long, drawn-out drama over whether she would or wouldn't, but they needed her vote. If she didn't vote for Kavanaugh, that vote would have failed. So she claimed that she had talked to Kavanaugh, and he said that he respected judicial precedents, and so he would not vote to overturn Roe v. Wade. And Maine is going to go Democratic by double digits. I mean, it's not even going to be close, right? So she needed to sort of differentiate herself from Trump by voting for Kavanaugh and his reactionary right-wing agenda. She basically tied herself to Kavanaugh's judicial decisions, and one after the other, they've been terrible. They've been everything we expected, right, with the Alito wing of the Supreme Court. But she always sort of held on to, like, he won't overturn Roe v. Wade. So we had one big, massive decision, this Texas or Louisiana restrictions on abortion providers, and it was the exact same law that the Supreme Court decided 4 years ago. So if you were going to follow precedents, this is literally the case to follow precedents on, because it was just decided. The only difference was Kennedy was replaced by Kavanaugh. Of course, he voted to restrict abortion rights, right? He made a mockery. But here's where it gets interesting to me is they lost, right? The conservatives lost that case because the Chief Justice, John Roberts, voted with the liberals. And he claimed precedent. There's a whole story there why Roberts is suddenly voting against everything Trumpian, right? I mean, there's a story there that hasn't been quite told. But that vote that Kavanaugh cast did not make a difference in the case, right? So he could have, to give Susan Collins a lifeline, he could have joined Justice Roberts in saying, well, I got to respect precedents just like I promised last year. And then next year they could rule to overturn, abortion, which is what Roberts actually signaled. He basically said, give me a little bit different facts and I'll vote to restrict abortion. Kavanaugh could have joined that. He could have given Collins a lifeline. Collins could have walked around saying, see, I told you Kavanaugh wasn't the person, you claimed he was. I was right all along. And people like me and you have been like, oh, crap, like she got us there, right? And it would not have affected the outcome of the case. But we knew who Kavanaugh was, right? I mean, he has multiple accusations of sexual assault. He clearly was an a-hole of epic proportions. And here he had a chance to do something for somebody that basically gave him this lifetime appointment to the court. And he couldn't bother to give a damn to do so. So he proved that he was exactly the person we said he was. And He screwed Collins over so deeply that I can't get over it, how easy it would have been for him to help her out. And he didn't care.
Yep. That's amazing. So that should be the nail in her coffin?
It is. It's the nail. Not only is it the nail in her coffin, it's the nail of the Senate majority in the Senate. They're done. Yeah. You can
the Senate majority is gone.
The Senate majority is gone, absent, again, something insane. But at this point, I can't even imagine what could happen to turn that around. Republicans know, Mitch McConnell is using loser talk now. He's threatening a Senate Democratic majority next year. He's talking about what happens when Democrats take over. They all know the polling for Senate Republicans isn't just atrocious, but it is collapsing in places where it shouldn't be. Places like Iowa and Texas and Alaska and places like that. I'm not kidding here. I'm not exaggerating. I don't like to give people false hope. I know there was a poll that said that we were tied in Missouri. We're not. So we're not going to win Missouri. Alaska and Montana are competitive at the presidential level. And I'm not saying we're going to win them. If I had to guess, we're going to lose both by a few points. But that means that our Senate candidates in those two states don't need as many crossover votes to win. So these are all, even if we don't, that's 6 electoral votes. They're all utterly irrelevant, right? We don't care if we win Montana and Alaska at the presidential level, but those Senate races actually matter. And the closer it is at the presidential level, the more of a chance we have of winning those races. And so right now, if I had to guess, I'd say that we're going to end up in the 53-47 Democratic Senate when the votes are all finally counted. And we have a chance at 55, 56 seats. It is that much of a way. Worst case scenario right now is 50-50 and we win the White House and we have a tiebreaker. That to me right now is the worst case. If things go south, we only get it, we pick up 3 net seats.
Wow. That's good. By the way, Susan Collins said that she agreed with the Supreme Court decision, but that Kavanaugh's opinion or his vote, quote, gave no indication, end quote, it would overturn Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Susan. She, see, that's an insult. She really thinks people in Maine are stupid, doesn't she? I mean, she really thinks people in Maine don't know anything and can't read, I guess.
Yeah, and you know what sucks for her is that people do. Like Maine, they're not dumb. And she was popular when she straddled that line well. And she stopped straddling. That Kavanaugh was just too blatant and obvious. And she overnight became the second most unpopular senator in the country, only behind Mitch McConnell. And she hasn't been able to recover. And there hasn't been a lot of polling, but the polling we've seen, she's losing by a lot. And what we shouldn't forget, because this is the big deal, is that after she voted for Kavanaugh, I don't know if you remember, but people started donating to the nominee fund for whoever the opponent was going to be. Right. That after, I think it was about 2 weeks after that vote, that nominee fund sat at $6 million. I don't know where it's at today because we've still been, at DailyKos, we've been fundraising for it, and I'm sure other people have as well. I'm sure it's over 7 million by this point. So that means that after the primary in Maine, which is this month, it's July, yeah. After the primary, and it's probably going to be Sarah Gideon, who's the state Senate Majority Leader. She'll wake up the next morning, have $6 million in the bank.
Yeah,
Maine's not an expensive state, right? Collins doesn't have that much money. So she is overnight going to be flooded with attacks, and she's not in a position right now to weather any attacks because she's already deeply in the hole. So it's hard to see how she turns it around. Kavanaugh could have given her a lifeline. I mean, I don't know if it would have saved her, but it would have given her more of a fighting chance, and he just didn't care. He got his lifetime appointment. He doesn't care about anybody else, particularly not a woman. He's definitely shown he doesn't care about women.
So didn't Maine, or hasn't Maine elected in the majority of its leadership women, I think, because you have the women speaker. There were several women who went in and on a wave in Maine, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason I'm raising that is, if women Democrats are popular in Maine, and Mainers voted last time around to elevate women Democrats who are obviously progressive, that means women are a very significant part of the electorate in Maine and their allies. They are simply not going to return Susan Collins. I mean, that handwriting is clearly on the wall, even without Kavanaugh.
Yeah. No, she's not going to get reelected. Good. I'm actually, my surprise more than anything is that she ran for reelection, given how poor her numbers looked. A lot of people, Joe Lieberman is one of them, just quit, right? Like, oh yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to win. I'm going to step out and we'll go out a winner. She decided that, I don't know if it's hubris or whatever it might be, but she thought she had a chance, and not only does she not have a chance, but Kavanaugh was making sure that she has an anchor around her leg.
That's a hell of a thing that he did that. I didn't even think about it. So now you mentioned that in states where it's even close at the presidential level, that still gives us a slight advantage at the Senate seat level. So that's a good thing. But tell us what you think about the presidential level at this moment. Does Trump still have a shot at this? Because all the polls are saying something different and the media's hyping it up. And I think, you and I know we have to be careful about our side, because we in this tricky thing. If we say, like 2016, there's no way Hillary's going to lose, and then some of us don't vote just on that basis alone, we snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But give us your honest assessment on where you think it is at the presidential level, Markos.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's again absent something we can't see, right? If all current trends continue, Biden's gonna win, and he's gonna win easily. The states, both public polling and then our own data at Civiqs, we're showing significant mid-single digits in Arizona, in North Carolina, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. We're seeing low single digits in leads in Arizona, Florida, in Georgia. And what's crazy, what I still can't fathom is that things look tied in Iowa and in Ohio. And these are states that Trump won by 9 and 10 points last cycle. So these aren't states that we need. They're not states that are necessary. And like I said, Montana and Alaska are competitive. Texas is mid-single digits deficit. But we had Trump winning Texas by 13 points at the beginning of the year. Now it's hovering around 4 points Trump lead. So it's shrinking, and the trend hasn't stopped. I mean, there's nothing in the numbers to suggest that Trump has hit rock bottom. He's finally bleeding support amongst seniors, amongst non-college white people, which had been sort of the rock bet. And I'm not saying Biden's going to win them. He's not, right? But there's a difference between losing them by 35 points and losing them by 15 points. And that's the sort of numbers that we are seeing. Now, keep in mind that the coronavirus death toll is only going to get worse while Trump sits here and does nothing. We have the bounty gate now that is actually, even Republicans are starting to look upset about that. And for obvious good reasons. I think things are only going to get worse for Donald Trump in the next few months. But even if it doesn't, he is losing. And we are within striking distance of Biden getting 400 electoral votes. I mean, it is a real possibility. He doesn't need it. And if I'm running his campaign, I'm not contesting Ohio and Iowa and Alaska and Montana and Texas, right? You're going after the state that you need to get to 270, right? So the original 7 battleground states that we talked about from the beginning, which were Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You focus on those states, you lock them down, even if you have leads, and Biden has leads in all those states, you act like those states are tied, and you focus on those, and other things will fall. I mean, at this rate, who knows? But it doesn't matter. What matters, again, like we were saying, is if we close that gap in Texas, if we close that gap in Iowa, if we close that gap in Montana, in Alaska, suddenly in Kansas, suddenly you have Senate seats that weren't on the map. South Carolina with Jamie Harrison, suddenly have Senate seats that are not competitive because they're such red states, and that opens it up for us to, if you're talking mid-single digits, it's still tough, but you get just a few people either to split their tickets, which doesn't happen very often these days, or, which is more likely, is somebody votes for the president and then walks away, doesn't vote down ballot because they don't think it's important, they don't know, whatever, apathy, ignorance. And then that becomes a real possibility. I'm not worried about Democrats not turning out to vote. I think people are going to turn out to vote against Trump just to turn out to vote against Trump. I mean, they may be living in Idaho. There's no chance they're going to, Biden's going to win Idaho. I don't think Idaho Democrats are going to stay home just because there's no chance. I mean, Democrats are motivated. And there's one last factor that I think some people have discussed, but it's not quite fully understood. And that's the notion of the double haters. So in 2016, there were people who hated Donald Trump, they hated Hillary Clinton, but they hated Hillary Clinton more. And so Trump won the double haters something like 68-30. It's in the exit polls. It was actually an exit poll question. This year, there are double haters. And there are plenty of Democrats who are like, ugh, Biden, right? So it's a big pool once again, the double haters. They hate both of them. But it is in all the polling that asked that question, Biden is winning the double haters by over 90%. So that just shows that 2016 was a referendum on Hillary Clinton for whatever reasons, lots of them. This is a referendum on Donald Trump. And so this effort to drag Biden down is utterly worthless. Trump is trying to look for a new nickname because Sleepy Joe's not effective enough. Nobody cares about Joe Biden. They can talk about Joe Biden sitting in his basement, which he doesn't need to come out. And Joe Biden being Joe Biden, he's probably better off saying as little as possible. And it doesn't matter because all people care about is can we survive another 4 years of Donald Trump? And nobody looks at Biden and thinks Biden's going to be worse.
Yeah.
And that's Donald Trump's problem.
You mentioned Bountygate. You're a veteran. Want to get your reactions to that. Trump attacked Colin Kaepernick and said that he was disrespecting the troops, while Trump has allowed bounties to be carried out against the troops. So really, people ought to be taking a knee not only for Black Lives Matter, but for the troops that he's allowed bounties to be on. But what do you think about
I mean, there's just everything about it is beyond outrageous, and that they would allow it to happen. If Trump didn't know, the fact that he didn't know because he didn't read his briefing materials, that in itself is outrageous and disqualifying for president. This is not one of those things where you can claim ignorance, because if you didn't know, either you didn't want to know, or you hired people that are afraid to tell you the information that you need to know. And even if you assume all of that, maybe if you assume, okay, he really didn't know, and there was good reasons for him not to know, why isn't he railing against Russia today?
Right.
I mean, so you can't even use that as a sculpt, because he's railing against China and the Wuhan virus and this and that. Like, he's showing all sorts of outrage for other countries, but it's dead silent for Russia. It's a Russia hoax. Immediately, he immediately defends Russia. And it is one of those mysteries that I will never understand, is how the Republican Party, which was always so anti-Russia, overnight decided to look the other way when Donald Trump decided that he was going to let Russia basically pull his strings, which is exactly what he's done. And Putin may be the greatest geopolitical figure in so far of this century, because his ability to bring down the United States, basically trash our country, and control, help elect the president that he controls, is a masterstroke of genius that he's probably still wakes up every morning going like, I can't believe this happened. I'm literally paying to murder American troops. And he invites me that same week, he invites me to the G7 summit.
Yeah. Right. As if nothing is happening. It's absurd. Yeah. Okay. VP, again, you still with Warren. You think Warren's the best choice?
I think Warren's a great choice. I mean, the one name that has been floated recently that I'm actually excited about would be Rep. Karen Bass of California. She's a Los Angeles area congresswoman. I believe she's chair of the Congressional Black Caucus right now, or co-chair.
She is.
Yeah, she is impeccable on her progressive bona fides. She is an absolutely inspiring and amazing woman. She is the first new name that I've heard that I thought like, okay, yeah, that's a good one. So I still think, I think Warren would be absolutely fantastic on the merits. I think Karen Bass would be fantastic on the merits. I think Stacey Abrams would be fantastic, but she's been for whatever reasons that I still don't know. She didn't even make the short list, which was very, very, very weird.
We know that for a fact that she didn't.
Yeah, we know. I mean, from reports, and nobody's contested that. Nobody has pushed back against it. So I'm taking that at face value. But yeah, so I was excited about Karen Bass. I actually, to be very, I'd be perfectly happy with Val Demings. I'd be perfectly happy with Kamala Harris. I think they have liabilities in their law enforcement backgrounds that I don't think anybody wants to really litigate right now. I think Warren has liabilities in that she's not a Black woman in this moment that I'm not sure anybody wants to litigate. So Karen Bass may be the cleanest, easiest, least controversial pick that Biden could make at this time. So I'm really, really gung-ho. you know me, I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Warren. I actually think she'd be great. I think she has proven and shown that she understands issues of racial inequities. And but given sort of the zeitgeist, given the moment, obviously picking her would be controversial and would create an intra-party fight that I'm not sure anybody really right now is interested in fighting. So picking somebody without that kind of baggage who still would work to unify the left, and she wouldn't do it immediately because she has no name ID, right? Nobody knows who she is. So we'd have to educate people on her as a way to unify that Bernie left. But there's also, at this point, do we really even need to unify the Bernie left? I mean, it's pretty clear.
Can we, and does it matter if we don't? That's the first way. Is it even possible?
I think it's possible.
Because if you define it, I hear you defining that by implication, the Bernie left. I think most people know they've got to vote for Biden. I think, aren't you talking about the people who are still holding out and considering not voting for Biden? And if you in July are still not sure or holding out, I mean, I don't.
You're irredeemable at that point, right?
Like, so I mean,
you mean that. Now the difference, though, there's a difference between going like, I'll vote for the guy, and then having a VP that gives you a reason to do more.
Okay.
Right. And it doesn't, I don't think it matters so much at the president.
They're not going to do that for Warren either. I don't think they're going to do that for anybody.
I think they'd get excited for Warren. I think they might, once they get to know Karen Bass, they might get excited for her.
The snake?
Yeah. The
snake, they call her a snake. Warren.
Yeah. A certain percentage did, of course, a certain percentage. But things that sort of, obviously, in the heat of the moment, I actually, there's that 10% of Bernie supporters that are irredeemable, right? They were never going to vote for the Democratic ticket anyway. They're the kind of people that would call Bernie a sellout like that the first time you have to compromise on anything anyway, right? I don't think these are rational, serious people. But I do think that it matters down ballot because we need more, we need excitement, we need energy in order to generate the kind of vote we need to not just win the Senate and pull those edge cases, the Alaskas and the Montanas and the Iowas, drag those into the Democratic column. But we also have House races in seats. So Tuesday night, a QAnon person, a Republican, defeated an incumbent, boring Trumpian Republican in a seat that Trump won by 8 points. Mm-hmm. This means that seat is suddenly, that House seat is suddenly in play, but it's a tough Republican sort of, leaning area. So the question is, do we get that down ballot excitement, not to win the White House? I mean, this is in Colorado. Biden's going to win Colorado easy. It doesn't matter if he wins Colorado by 10 points or 15 points for Biden. It matters for the semi-competitive House race if we can squeeze out that extra bit of support. So there is value in exciting the base beyond what Biden will do on his own. That said, we're looking pretty good already. So I was more worried about unifying the base 3 months ago than I am today after Trump is literally just lit the country on fire and made a mess of quite possibly everything that he could touch.
Yeah, terrible. Burned everything down.
Yeah.
DailyKos.com. Follow. Check out Civiqs, all the latest polls too. Civiqs with a Q. Founder Markos Moulitsas here with us. No statue.
No statue. Thanks so much.
You founded a town. Let's usually get your statue.
I get a URL.
Virtual town.
I get my name on. Yeah. That's good enough. Have a great weekend. Everybody, please stay safe. It's dangerous out there. This thing's not over. Let's treat this. Let's make sure our people are safe.
Yeah, take it easy, folks. Please take it easy.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.
Just when you thought the world's most comfortable shoe couldn't get any more comfortable, well, it did. Introducing the Allbirds Wool Runner 2, the next-gen version of the legendary shoe that started it all. It's been refined, redesigned, and completely redefined with more than a dozen upgrades. It delivers comfy all-day wear that's built for bliss, turning your Cloud 9 into a 10. Plus, they're made with sustainability in mind, so you can feel good with each step you take. Added cushioning that delivers a plush ride? Check. An ultra-cozy merino wool upper for a soft fit and feel? Check. Improved durability that offers lasting wear and comfort? Check, check, and check. Lace up a pair and check off next-level comfort, too. Because when your feet are happy, the rest of you follows. Wherever you're headed, it's easy to keep up the pace when you wear Allbirds. Get yours at allbirds.com and use code FRESH24 to score a free pair of socks with purchase today. That's a free pair of socks with purchase at allbirds.com, code FRESH24.
The future of legal THC is Mood's THCA flower. Find it today at hellomood.com, the best online dispensary that ships discreetly to your door. Great for beginner and veteran users, Mood enhances awe-inspiring experiences with a variety of high-quality products you can trust, from gummies and pre-rolls to classic flower and so much more. Try Mood's new THCA flower today, and for 20% off your first order plus a free pre-roll of THCA flower, go to hellomood.com and use promo code PODCAST20.